Alright. We are here with one of the best series from the King of Battles. That's right, this one came highly recommended, and I see a bleating goat down here in the bottom left. That's right, we see Serral, the blue Zerg from Finland, and he's going up against Alpha X Classic, a player that has been turning heads recently, finally overcoming Zest, who's been blocking him. He came back from the military last year, did Classic. Classic, of course, a multiple-time champion ever since 2014. To give you guys an idea of how much history Classic has with this game, I used to compete against this guy many times. I've played him. He has killed me in many qualifiers over the 2014, 2013, 2015 period when he was winning GSLs back then. But he's won things since then as well. He's been really good. I actually learnt Protoss when I started learning Protoss. A lot of my PvT was learnt from watching Classic's games. He is an absolute monster. And what has really been weird about Classic in the past is he's got one of the smallest fan bases out of the big top players. And part of that is because he's kind of a hybrid. He doesn't have that like one distinctive thing you talk about where you're like, oh, he's really good at cheesing. He's a cannon rush god. He actually does a bit of everything. And he just picks his strategy purely to adapt to the opponent. So he's kind of like this adaptive player where you don't really know what he's going to do. It comes down more to how he thinks he can beat the opponent. And that's why he's always been a player. He'll bring out a cannon rush just occasionally. He'll bring out a weird proxy all in. He'll also play the biggest, most defensive macro game, and you never know which one he's going to go for. He can go all out on a timing attack or just play very defensive. And it's that hybrid nature of him, which makes it hard to say, oh, we're going to see him do this. He's going to be more dangerous with run bys or backstabs or this or that. It's like, no, it's Classic. He's very hard to prepare against because you don't know which set of builds and what version of Classic you're going to face off against. That being said, I think Serral does match up really well against him, simply because Serral is such a fantastic defensive player he's happy to just play against everyone super safe, scout everything, verify what's going on. I don't think Serral necessarily needs to have that information, whereas a guy like Raynor, I think, or Lambo, for instance, these sort of Zergs, much more of their play is so powerful because they study their opponents, anticipate what they're going to do, and then they like cut corners here and there to get ahead. Serral, he would be like, that's gambling. I don't like gambling. It's like, you could argue that's good StarCraft, Serral. But, he doesn't really like taking those risks unless he sees a pattern that's very consistent that he can take advantage of. And then he's like, no, okay. 4 out of 5 games, my opponent does this. If I do this thing, it'll get me an advantage. That's what I'll do. So you've got a non-gambling Serral, really likes to be, solid macro defense. Classic, who has, of course, been a master of adapting the Skytoss style. And even after the patch, was trying to make it work. Didn't work so well against Dark, unfortunately, in GSL. But he's going for the Void Ray first. That'll deny the scouting. Other than that, it's been pretty standard. Notice that Classic's probe count is up by 4, despite no losses being incurred on either side. That tells you he's been putting a lot of chrono boosts into those probes. And we do expect him to move out and take his 3rd base in the near future. So, yep, already moving out. I'm like, with this setup, there's really nothing you're doing there except killing the Overlord, clearing up their vision, taking a quick 3rd, and then he's going to add an Oracle or 2 for some follow-up pressure. So now, as he eliminates the Zerg's vision of what's going on, this is where he's going to make some choices about, okay, do we drop a Twilight Council? Is it going to be double gas, Robo, second Stargate? Is it just a Twilight Forge? There's a few different options. We'll keep our eyes exactly on it. And Serral has this Overseer or Overlord on the right side, which he will probably make an Overseer with later. And he's going to go in with that to scout. Now, for now, quite a few Zerglings coming through, but the Void Ray spots them. So Classic said, you know what? The Oracle can always defend my 3rd, as well as this Adept if need be. He's got that Pylon and kind of sticks out a bit like a sore thumb. I'm not really a fan of where pros have been putting the Pylon because it's so exposed, but they don't seem to mind that Pylon sticking out a little bit. It does allow them to build shield batteries further forward against some of those walking queen strategies and all that sort of stuff. Overlord speed's already on the way for Serral. Oh, 4 queens. Oh my god, he thought the Void Ray could distract the queens. The Oracle would get a kill or 2. He was not expecting 4 queens on that base. Serral does have a Spore, and check it out, guys, he's hidden it as well. You might fly in as Classic with an Oracle, be like, oh, there's only 1 queen. Little do you know, there's a Spore Crawler hidden underneath. And I think that might even be on purpose. Serral loves these little details. Spore Crawler in the natural as well. That's why he was allowed to commit so many guys over there. And he's even building a 3rd Spore. Wow, super safe play from Serral. So he's not only gone 6 queens really early, he's also got Spore up on each base. He's droning really hard. And he got his Roach Horn at about 4 minutes 40, which is a kind of medium time. Now, you got to remember, as Serral, Overlord does go through. He sees Forge, Twilight, and a Templar Archives and some extra gateways. Now that Templar Archives is really big. So Serral should know that he's actually up against Charge Archon. This is the style Hero's been favoring recently after going pure Blinkstalker a lot, and like Trap and Max Pax and a few of these guys also playing very heavy Blinkstalker. But it's Classic seems to be going down the rogue path of, hey, I'm going straight charge, probably Immortals, probably Archons. And against that, Ravager Bane is meant to be fantastic. Also, Mutalisk switches are meant to be incredible. Now, Mutalisks are one of those units, though, that Serral is probably one of the weakest Mutalisk players in ZvP, just because, once again, he feels like if they get a good scout on it and a good read on it, the Mutas get countered too hard by the Phoenix. Whereas you'll see a guy like Rogue let his Spire get scouted, and he just won't commit straight away, but then he'll wait for 2,000 minerals, build 20 mutas at once, and then just overwhelm the 2 Phoenix and go for it. Serral, though, like, I just don't... Yeah, Infestation Pit. I'm not surprised at all. Serral is so different. Dark, Raynor, Rogue. A lot of these other Zergs would love Aspire here. They'd be like, you know what? I saw the Templar Archives. I know you're playing Charge Archon. You're going to be real ground focused. Let's get the mutas out. We shut down the Prism. We dive in and do damage. There's even a second Robo on the way. Wow, Classic's going to go double Robo. I am a huge fan of this, and every pro gamer disagrees with me. I am glad to see Classic agrees. For those who don't know, the Robo got made cheaper a couple years ago. It's only 150 minerals and 100 gas, and it gives you so much reactive production. So if you need to swap into Disruptors really hard, or just massive Mortals to counter Roaches, anything like that, the ability to double produce out of your Robos, rebuild Observers, it's huge. It's massive, and it doesn't cost you that much. You can always idle it. 100 gas is not going to break the bank. Yet so many players are like, no, I only make a single Robo, and if they ever lose the core of Robo units, they're just massively screwed. Oh, no. Oh, get out of there, Classic. Okay. Oh my God. Okay, he turned around for a moment there. That is why normally in that scenario, you do want to pull the Archons back and click them on the Prism, because if you click the Prism on the Archons, but they're just out of range, it will turn around. But anyways, we've got Swarmos on the way. Lots of them, guys. He's got so much creep out to Serral. Serral going old school. And actually, he's got a Dropper Lord. He's bringing 3 Queens. I think he's going to try and spread creep forwards with this. He's going to use this to defend because there's only 1 Oracle, 1 Void Ray. That's going to allow his Swarm Host to march forward. And so he doesn't need a Nidus Worm. He can just march his Swarm Host up and throw Locusts offensively. Mass Roach Ravager off 66 drones. You might think he's lower on economy. Yeah, he is. But it doesn't matter because the thing is, he's going to be able to just support the Swarm Host. And as Classic, how are you going to defend this? He needs to get a good battery overcharge off in this next fight, but there's no battery on the natural. Serral wisely avoiding the static defense, and he says, hey, mate, you want to protect that natural? And look at that. You see, guys, he's microed these in. He's going to go after the Robos by the looks of it. I wouldn't mind him going after the probes. That's where the real damage usually can happen. Classic's going to jump on top, but you can see the probes getting slaughtered in the top. The Queens pick up and try to get out of there. They should go down, but the Void Ray and the Archons actually stop attacking it. The Locusts actually get 9 probes and the Nexus. Oh, Serral turning to fight. I think that was a mistake, guys. Okay, a bit of stutter step is all right here, so at least you're trading out with these Zealots, but Serral should probably just be running home. Oh, a flanking Stasis Trap actually caught 3 of the Swarmos. Classic, you cheeky bugger. Meanwhile, Serral's trying to distract his 3 Queens that got ignored are going to go and unload in the main base. His Roaches trying to scramble home. Classic wants to push him back. Remember, Classic lost his natural. Classic needs to do some counter damage. Zealots warp in. The Overlord does a dump on the base, immediately picks up and just moves away. Serral with some great multitasking. Locust coming in. He's got to defend this 4th base. Serral does not want to lose that 4th. Otherwise, that gives Classic a lot of breathing room. But, okay, the Archons are going down. The Immortals are going down. Classic has overextended. With just a handful of Immortal Archon, he went way too deep. And he's still rallying in. Classic, no, not like this. Oh, my God. Oh, wait, he's killing some Swarmos. That 1 Immortal on the left kills 1, 2... Could kill a 3rd or 4th. Remember, Immortals smash Swarm Hosts, especially when +2 kicks in. They'll 3-shot them rather than 4-shot. So that's always cute. Does he get it? He gets that 1 more Swarm Host. Meanwhile, the Queen drop in the back. The Zealots with the shield battery aren't really going to take damage. He drops a creep tumor. This is what I'm talking about. Yeah, that was the plan, was to drop forward a creep like this one, but he's ended up turning it into a harassment tool. Serral's like, I guess there's no Void Ray left, right? The Void Ray chased across the map. Oh no, Classic threw the Void Ray away. Guys, remember, if he had a Void Ray here, there's no anti-air for Serral on this side of the map. A Void Ray would do so much to push back the Roaches and the Swarm Hosts. As it is, there's only 5 Swarm Hosts left, so it's basically Immortal Zealot Archon up against Swarm Host Roach. It's still a very close game, 57 probes to 64, but Serral has momentum, and if he can get in there, that could be huge. The Locust distract, the Zerglings go in. He's gonna split off those Lings to depower the Robos. That's gonna be massive. They both get depowered, the Zealots get canceled. Roach is pulling back, Queen's redropping in the main base. He's being such a pain in the ass. Dude, it's like he's been watching old VODs of True or something, one of these troll Zergs that just does crazy distraction strats. He's ripping Classic apart in all directions, and this is amazing. It is honestly, it's the assist taxi that has turned into a drive-by taxi. That Overlord right there, it's Jamie Foxx, and it has 3 Tom Cruise Queens inside it, and they're like, put your fucking foot on the pedal, we're gonna go kill some probes. And he's like, I don't want to kill probes, I just want to drive my Overlord around, take a poo on some places, maybe have a bit of a perv from a pillar. And they're like, no, we're going into the nightclub, we're gonna break some gangsters' wrists and shoot him in the thigh, and then kill some big kingpin guy, and then we're getting out of here. You can see they're doing it as well. They're not quite as quick to kill things as Tom Cruise in that Collateral movie, but yeah, to be fair, it is still really freaking annoying for Classic, who's like, dude, I wish I had not lost my Void Ray. He just counterattacked a little bit too hard in this game. Oh man, the Immortals are slaying, but does he have enough? Good pullback by Serral. If he stayed there longer, he would have lost all the Ravages, and those are very expensive units. The main base, oh man, he's taking 10 probe losses extra, has Classic in the last minute or so. Phoenix is finally here, but he needs battery overcharge to stop the Phoenix from dying, which is an absolute nightmare. And Serral is somehow in the midst of this, making a Lurker transition. He's got Hive, Lurker, he's only got 65 drones, but he's done really, really well on that. He's still got 5 Swarm Hosts on that right side. Oh, and Archon goes down. That's a bummer. Every unit you lose here is massive because it's all about just keeping them alive and pulling them back into the overcharge. Oh, the Overlord's gonna come in. More Zealots warping, and he's gonna try and unload. Get the creep out, get the creep out. He doesn't quite get the transfuse off. The creep wasn't there, but it does not matter because Serral there with the fake taxi. Oh my god, that's why people in chat are calling it fake taxi mode. With the surprise taxi that turned into a harassment taxi that did an insane amount of damage. If Classic kept that Void Ray alive, tracking on that Overlord, I think he could have definitely played this out, but a really nice game one for Serral. Alright, guys, let's go. It is game number 2. A cool win there for Serral. It's funny because I keep hyping up Classic and people are like, Pig, why are you hyping up Classic? And I'm like, guys, like, you're not gonna go from coming back from the military maybe 8 months ago now to beating Serral, the best Zerg in the world. The thing is, like, it really is awesome that he's already taken such a fight to him. And the thing is, his instinct to counterattack in that last game was awesome because against Swarm Hosts, you can't let them just sit on your side of the map being irritating, right? You know, like if they're hanging out on your side of the map with those Swarm Hosts, launching them right into your base, like you need to get out there and fight them. So Classic's instinct of saying, hey, you used your Locust to kill a Nexus and some probes, not in the battle. I gotta chase your army down now and punish you for that. And especially with the attempted stasis trap, if he force fielded those units with that stasis trap, he kills every Swarm Host, every Roach. Instead, he only blocked about half of the ramp with it, but if he got that stasis trap off, guys, on that ramp, we would all be going, oh my god, Classic is the god of all gods right now. We'd be like, that was the sickest play. He was very close to pulling off highlight play, probably of the entire tournament here in this group stage best of 3 match. So hats off to Classic. Definitely did need to pull the Void Ray back to deal with the Overlord drop though. Should not have sent that across the map. If you got rid of those Queens, I think it's a different game because he can put a bit more focus into his micro on his attacks. And if he didn't chase all the way onto creep, if he chased to the edge of creep, and then kept all those Immortals alive because he lost like 3 or 4 extra Immortals, 1 or 2 extra Archons chasing onto creep. And I think that's the straw that breaks the camel's back because there is a point you hit with Serral's style where the Roach Ravager Swarm Host, you've got to kind of keep the Protoss army small. Sometimes you're like, yeah, I'm doing well. I'm maxed out on you know, I've got 12 Swarm Hosts. I've got a ton of Roach Ravager. But you attack and they have like 8 Archons and 7 Immortals in a row with a shield battery healing them, and your Locusts do nothing. And they just disappear. And then the Protoss is like, I'm going to counterattack you now. And, oh, by the way, I'm warping in 3 more Archons and 10 more Zealots. And you're like, oh, I'm actually like, I'm fighting a giant army of Archon Immortal Zealot with just Roach Ravager. And the Locusts, like, aren't really getting enough damage. You have to keep the Protoss player small. You got to keep trading with them, using that ability over and over again. Now, Classic did scout with the probe, and I would criticize this a little bit. I would like him to completely skip scouting, something Hero has been doing a lot recently. Just skip scouting when he can get away with it, especially against a guy like Serral. You know, one of these real macros, just skip the scout. You know, Parting used to do it a lot, and he was the best PvZ player for quite a while there, wasn't he? Because he'd mix in super cheesy cannon rushes, and he'd mix in super greedy players as well. And I really think that's something where what we're seeing right now is the ZvP meta post-patch is so exciting. I do think maybe it feels like maybe it's a little Zerg favored right now just from results. Obviously, results don't say everything. But what I'm feeling is that the Protoss players are once again realizing, hey, if we're actually not predictable, dude, like, there are so many ways we can win the game. And Creator in GSL, oh my god. Anyone who hasn't been watching Creator's plays in GSL, he's been doing so many timings from one of the most macro virgin pro gamers, who's usually known for hitting his peak when balance just stays the same and stale for like 5 years straight. Like, that's Creator as a player. And I was like, man, any patch coming out's terrible for Creator. It really sucks because he's hitting his peak. He was the most unhappy with the patch. Bam! Into the GSL finals and putting up an incredible performance there as well. And getting there as well through just awesome, such a huge range of wildly diverse plays that are very hard to read. And it really feels like it's cool to see because it's exciting to watch. At the moment, Protoss players are just throwing the kitchen sink at Zergs. And definitely for us viewing, it's been awesome. Now, the Void Ray tanks the Spore Crawler there. Oracle and the Void Ray. They only get 2 kills though, and remember, you do need to leave through the slow zone. So the Queens could have chased and got quite a few more hits there, but Serral's like, nah, I want to go back to injecting. I love that the moment Serral pushes you out of his base, he's like, back to macro. Back to macro. I don't even care about getting a few hits on that Void Ray, bro. And he's going to go Overlord speed. Is he going to do a taxi again? Guys, this used to be called the German taxi. And the reason it's called that is, honestly, I can't remember. I imagine it's just Lambo was the one who did it a lot. Throw Queens into an Overlord, push across the map, try and kill him. And this was before Queen Walks really even became a big thing, right? Like, no one was really walking Queens across. It was a pretty rare strategy. But just, you know, it became really popular later on when he figured out that walking across the map was super powerful on many of them. But the German taxi, definitely powerful. Not to mention Overlord speed just allows you to scout early on. And you can see, okay, there's... I think he saw the Twilight in the Forge, right? Yeah, he sees the Twilight Forge, extra gateways. So... thing is, this time there's no Templar Archives. It's going to be a Blink style. So this is the more standard style than that charge style we saw in the last game. And most players, I remember going, hey, why is no one going Swarm Host? I was asking Protoss about this a few months back. I was like, dude, Swarm Hosts are so good versus Protoss, man. And basically the pro response I got was they're like, well, you can't really tell if they're going Blink Stalkers or not, usually, like a lot of the time. And if they are going Blink and you commit to Swarm Hosts, like, Swarm Hosts just aren't good enough because the Stalkers are too mobile. Like, you'll come up here to throw some Locusts and the Stalkers blink across and start killing all your Swarm Hosts. Stalkers are just very good for kind of controlling the map. So it's really hard to get in position to throw Locusts at them. And I was like, oh, okay. It's funny because, you know, I play on my level on the ladder and I'm like, oh, high GM, NA, and Swarm Hosts kill Blink Stalkers as well, right? I can play it versus anything, but when you look at true expert usage of Blink Stalkers, just think of how different Blink Stalkers look when Parting's using them, for instance, right? To any other pro player. It's that level of like, oh no, this is a different thing. These units actually are so good with their mobility. Now, Classic's got a 4th up, and he's got 6 sentries, so he's got a lot of force field energy. And he's going up against Ravager Bane from Serral. Now, Ravager Bane is a composition that has been giving Protoss nightmares. Because he has a quick 4th base... Oh, what's this? Oh, he pulled his whole army back for the Overseer. Was that an F2? Guys, I haven't really studied Classic's control groups. He does not have his Void Ray on a control group or his Oracle. Oh my. I don't like that system. Why have we got 5 probes on the gold there? Interesting. The Oracle, he's just manually clicking on the minimap to control it. Stasis Trap comes in. The drones are going to... pull back, wait for the Queen to clean that up. Good reaction by Serral. Oh, he's going to roll Banelings in there for sure. This Void Ray needs to be spotting this further away. Oh, actually, Zerglings are coming back. Here comes the Stalkers. He's going Zealots. Now, I've been talking a lot as well about why aren't Protoss players playing with Disruptors, guys? And it's because Disruptors kind of suck at attacking. They're great at defending. They're not good at attacking. Oh, actually, man, if he threw those force fields earlier, he could have cut off a lot of Serral's units. Bane speed's not ready. Roach speed is. Melee's almost done. It should be pure Zerglings rallying in behind this. Serral's just very wary of the force fields right now. The gold-based mining has been denied momentarily. The Queens are coming forward to tank. The creep spread here really helping. Just get forward. 2 drones do go down. Serral's a little wary. I think if Serral splits half of his army on the left, half on the right, he could smash this. Zealot's going to be good versus the Roachling, but the Baneling's going to be pretty handy against those Zealots. Oh, some nice Banelings up front. tanking for a moment and getting the Zealots. Biles landing on the sentries. The Stalkers trying to take a fantastic position here. It is a 10-gate Blink Stalker timing attack from Classic, and if he can just keep this relatively even trades and deny the gold mining, he will win the game because he's actually got way more money. But oh, juicy Baneling hits. It's a big arc of Stalkers, but I don't think I think it's just a bit too much Zerg with the Queens coming in. The Prism does commit a bit too deep. Classic, I think, needed to build his numbers a little more and use his force fields more effectively. And Serral just patiently whittles down the force fields, takes out these units a few at a time. Very well played here by Serral. He cleans up the attack. Now, it's by no means game over, but Classic, remember, he's only on 4 gases. No gas on the 3rd, no gas on the 4th. Classic will need to take a 5th base if he wants to maintain mining. Oh no, he flies his War Prism into the Queens. A huge mistake. Losing that one, this still should, honestly, I don't think it should be game over by any means, just because Serral's income is very similar, but defending the gold, not really going to be possible right now. He's just going to have to pull these probes away, get the Void Ray away from the Bile. Classic is going for +1 armor behind +2 attack. That'll help his Zealots versus the Zerglings quite a bit, but where is the Disruptor transition? At this point, you have to go to late game as Classic, and adding some Disruptors in there is so powerful versus a player who's committed to Ravager Bane. Now, the other reason Protoss players, because I've been discussing this with Protoss pros, and I've been saying, look, the Koreans are just not going for Disruptors ever. They're so obsessed with staying on Zealot Stalker, and there are points where it's good for an all-in if you can get momentum, but the moment you lose momentum or fall into a defensive stance, and your opponent's clearly committed to Ravager Bane, Serral doesn't have tons of gas to swap into Mutas here. And even if he did, Disruptors would be so good against what he's already got. Yet so many players are refusing to go into that. Now, this is a good Zealot. That should be a good Zealot run by, unless you're playing Serral, and half his army's there waiting for it. You can't outposition Serral. He's got Overlords and creep everywhere. He sees it coming. But this is what I'm talking about right now. I think Classic, he's trying to do this with Mass Stalker, and you know what? If he can max out Mass Stalker versus Ravager Bane, don't get me wrong, he can win, but a Hive's on the way, +2 melee's on the way. Oh, the Void Ray doesn't quite die there. It's getting some good damage, man. That Void Ray is making this very expensive for Serral. You know, every Ravager it kills, every Baneling it picks off is pretty nice. Just needs to keep that alive. It's a really good tool for just saying, hey, get out of here, mate. The Void Ray is chasing the Zealot Stalker coming in as well. Still no transition from Classic other than the minerals. He's trying to just overwhelm with the Zealot Stalker multi-prong. Banelings getting some fantastic hits. Serral worried about the War Prism in the main though. Zerglings trying to chase these Zealots. The Zealots, of course, outnumber. They should win the fight versus the Zerglings. But as the Roaches and Lings come in, they will struggle a little bit. Still nothing but Zealots and Stalkers. And this is, of course, the style where you're trying to swarm the Zerg and outnumber them. But once they got Ravager Bane, Bane's to deal with the Zealots, and they've got all this other army, it's going to be really hard to make this work. Classic, he's got a good arc of Stalkers. You can see he likes to set up that big concave reactively. Oh! Banelings! Where the hell did they come from? Did they come around? They must have run around the south side. 12 probes do go down. Classic taking big damage right now. Serral's going to go up into the main base. He's got that Spire on the way. He wants to go Broodlords. Ravager Bane into Broods. Broods are the scary point. Now a disruptive transition is starting for Classic, but Broodlords are already almost out. The big problem with Broodlords is they counter Disruptors super hard. So do Vipers, so do Ultras. None of those are going to be, it's past the time where Disruptors are going to help. So I actually think for Classic, you need to go straight Sky Toss at this point. That's the only option, is go straight up to Carriers, maybe some Tempest, that sort of stuff. Baneling's coming in again. Classic, watch out. Look at this. Serral distracts at the top, runs in on the bottom at the same time. He's going to go for the mineral line. Oh, man. I thought he pulled in time, but he didn't mineral walk them away. And meanwhile, the top mineral line gets swarmed as well. Oh, and we see the Zealot Stalker style there coming on in, getting overwhelmed. And I think this is a big point in what's gone wrong with Protoss' strategies right now as they adapt. Their openings are so good, but if their first Blink Stalker timing doesn't work, they just don't transition. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing from Classic here. We've seen Hero throw a number of maps trap as well, by just never transitioning off Stalkers and Zealots. And I think there's got to be an evolution in that understanding from the Protoss players right now. Obviously, I could make jokes about, their brains have atrophied from playing Void Rays for too long and not having to adapt to things. But honestly, this is every player in a new meta. People are just rusty in terms of that decision-making. And Classic's microing his heart out, but he's in a position where you could give him 2 partings playing Archon mode controlling. There was no way after that first Blink Stalker engagement going down that he was going to be able to win these fights with these units. The Disruptors just coming into the field way too late, and that is the big changer there. If you get a few Archons and Disruptors out, you don't want to overcommit to it, But if you get a couple of those, it's going to be massive. And this is something I've seen over and over again in these very exciting Zerg versus Protoss games, but we're often seeing as Protoss players get ahead, commit to a timing, and then overcommit to a composition well past its use by date. That was really unfortunate that Classic missed those force fields. He could have trapped a bunch of that army. One of the big problems he has here is that he stays in the open a little bit too much. I would have loved to see Classic rotate his whole army up here and work a single angle, because then it's much harder for Serral to flank all the way around. Whereas right here, this is a very big choke point, and I think these first force fields didn't really achieve anything, and a lot of his stalkers are kind of just hitting drones and whatnot half the time. So I think he wastes Guardian Shield and force field energy a little bit too early, and I think he just needs to be a lot more cautious here. Right now, you're mining the gold, he's not. That's already a winning situation for you as Classic. And the thing is, if you are really committing all in, which it seems like he is, it's all about how you take this fight. This fight is a win or lose situation. These force fields, though, heavily overlapping. 1, 2, 3. 2 force fields basically could have done what those 3 achieved. And it looks like an alright fight, but then bam, he's done another Guardian Shield. And once again, 2 force fields right on top of each other that just aren't doing that much. So I do think Classic didn't get enough value out of his force fields in this game. Those 2 force fields wasted, multiple force fields overlapping. And then he just overcommitted to a fight here, which I think in hindsight, he clearly didn't have the numbers. He should have pulled up this ramp and done more of a defensive threatening engage. Started the disruptor transition while still denying his opponent's mining. Gas, gas, second robo bay, gas, gas, 5th base. And I think Serral would struggle so hard to maintain pace with that. But I think Protoss players understanding the power of a Blink Stalker shove, but then also understanding when the Zergs are ready for it and have committed to being safe, and the fact that you do need to back out of it is the big thing missing in ZvP right now. Really well played by Serral. Of course, he's the favorite in the matchup, but I do think with these sort of openings, Classic looked like he was in a great position, man. When you're mining with more workers than the Zerg is, denying his gold, that is a juicy position to convert off of. Very well played by Classic in the openings, but Serral's just too safe against these sort of timing attacks. You've got to be very flexible versus Serral. GG's.